Everyone. It's 5:30, so we're going to go ahead and get started. My name is Malini Sims. I'm a principal planner with the town, and it's great to see a lot of familiar faces and some new to the resident working groups. Um, we I would do want to ask that if possible, everybody turn on their cameras just so we can get to know each other. But please keep your mic muted just so we're not getting a lot of background noise. To start us off this evening, I'm going to launch a quick poll. Just give me one moment. Let's see. It should be coming up on your screen now if you want to go ahead and answer the question. All right, looks like everybody's had a chance. All right, so pie and cookies are everybody's favorite. Hopefully, you'll have an opportunity between Thanksgiving and the rest of the holiday season to get a lot of those. I want to quickly use this poll as a way to go around and do short introductions. So if you chose pie, if you'd please raise your virtual hand. You can use the raise hand function. You might also have to look under the more option to find your raise hand. So Bev, if you want to introduce yourself.
Bev Showalter, County Line Riders of Catalina, Pima Trails Association. I'm all about access for equestrians on trails, backcountry trails, and on public lands.
Great, thanks for joining, Bev. And then we'll go to Ken uh, in the conference room. Yep.
Can you hear me? Yeah. I'm here to learn how the next meeting is going to operate on housing. So I'm just here to learn the system.
Great. Well, thanks for joining, Ken. And the next meeting will run very much like this meeting, so great idea to attend this one as well. Mark?
Good evening, everybody. I hope you're having a wonderful holiday season. I'm Mark Napier. I'm a longtime Oro Valley resident, more than 3 decades, and I'm deeply passionate about what happens to our communities moving forward. Happy to be part of this crew. Welcome, everybody.
Thank you. Hal?
I'm Hal Bergsma. I've been a resident for about 7.5 years. I served for 4 years on the Planning and Zoning Commission, and I'm a retired local government planner.
Great. Ted?
Hi, my name is Ted Shepard. I moved to Oro Valley about 3 years ago, and I'm interested in seeing how the town functions since I'll be here for the next couple decades.
Great. Thank you, Ted. All right. How about folks who like cookies? If you'd raise your hand. All right, Mike?
Hi, I'm Mike. I've been in Oro Valley about 4.5 years. I'm on the Parks and Rec Advisory Board, and you can often see me on the tennis courts or the golf course or pickleball courts or on a trail or anything else that's outdoors.
Great. Sandy?
Hi, Sandy Wilson. We've lived here in Oro Valley for 10 years, and I'm a planning and zoning commissioner and really happy to be involved in this program for the next 10 years. So thanks very much.
Okay. Sharon?
There we are. Hi, I'm Sharon Beckman. I'm a two-time Oro Valley resident and so thrilled to be a part of this process. Looking forward to having this document ready to put to the vote. Looking forward to it.
Thank you, Sharon. Let's see, McKenna?
Hello, my name is McKenna. I'm Oro Valley born and raised, and I work with the Oro Valley Chamber of Commerce and our Gen Z committee. And I mean, cookies are phenomenal. And today at the chamber, we got dropped off cookies by somebody that are like a chocolate crinkle with candy cane in them. And they are phenomenal. So if you're needing a new cookie recipe, that's what I would recommend.
There you go. You're mixing in the candy canes too. I like it. Um, Tom?
Hi, I'm Tom Gribb. This is the second time around for me in the 10-year planning process. I've been on a number of boards and commissioners, both for the town and for other organizations. Been here in Oro Valley for 23 years. So I'm looking forward to this planning session, just like the last ones.
Great. And then Rosa?
Hi, I'm Rosa Daly. I have been a resident for 19 years. I'm starting my 20th year, longest I've ever lived in one place or one house in my entire life. And I pretty much participated in most of the meetings. I think I missed three of them. So I'm looking forward to wrapping this up.
Okay, thank you, Rosa. Lisa?
Hi, everybody. This is my first time engaging in this level of the process. I'm excited. I just finished the Community Academy and good to see you, Malini. And I learned a lot about the community and felt a real high sense of pride, particularly as I learned more about the planning process. So I'm just really excited to be part of this. I'm 5 years in, so I'm a newbie compared to most of you. I'm a retired university professor and administrator, and just happy to be here. Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa. Cheryl? And Cheryl, you're muted if you're trying to speak. Okay, Cheryl, come back to, oh, there you go. I think. Are
Okay,
we still, there
good.
you go. Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I don't, I did set it up to use my computer audio, but it didn't connect and it isn't connecting with the video. So I'm going to work on that when we finish this question. So apologize. I've been here, it'll be 20 years in March, and I've attended a number of the meetings as well. Both the one I signed up for was development, but I also participated on a number of the other committees.
Great. Thank you, Cheryl. And then Roberta?
Me on me. Hi, my name is Roberta, and I've lived in Tucson on and off for 50 years, and Oro Valley for almost 5 years. And my particular interests are natural areas and trails, uh, places for leashed dogs, and potentiating the use of the Overlook and the community center. And I've been on a number of these calls, and I so appreciate talking with other Oro Valley residents, and also the incredible opportunity that my town allows me to have a voice. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Roberta. All right, I'm not seeing any other hands up for cookies, so we'll move on to candy. Who likes their Christmas candy? Sue?
Hi, yeah, I like candy. Yeah, I eat too many cookies and a pie. I will eat too much, so I stick with candies because individual wrapped and I can control it that way. I've lived here for 4 years. I was a math science teacher for 38 years, and what I love are the natural areas and trails. I hike a lot, so thank you.
Great. Thank you, Sue. Sherry?
Everyone. My name is Sherry Lomayesva. I participated on the water and environment community groups for the plan. And I also love candy. I love the individually wrapped truffles. They are like my favorite, but also, a good thing to keep an eye on how much you eat. And happy to be here.
Thank you, Sherry. Ellen?
Hi, everyone. I'm Ellen Coleman. I've been in Oro Valley for 5 years. I'm a retired CEO.
I was part of the Water and Environmental Committee as well, and I'm looking forward to seeing where we take the next steps.
Thank you, Ellen. All right, what about other? And we're gonna have to ask you what the other is, of course. Um, Richard? Oh, and you're muted, Richard. Just one moment.
There we go. You hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah, I forgot to raise my hand for pie, but I'm here anyway because I really do like pie. And the other stuff I don't like as much, but cookies are fun. And I'm Richard Furash. I'm a resident of Oro Valley for 33 years, which makes me an old timer, I guess. This is my third general plan, maybe my fourth because the 2000 plan had to be done twice. So I think it's my fourth general plan. I'm the publisher of Little Oro Valley Excel, and I've been keeping abreast of everything we've been doing on this since it started. And I just want to stay involved because I think we're doing great work. And Melanie, you're doing a terrific job. So I'll lower my hand now. There we go.
And then Maureen?
Hi, I also didn't get to vote. I came in a bit late, and I'd still say other because I don't have a big sweet tooth, so I think fruit would be my choice with everything. I mean, I like pumpkin pie or apple pie because it has fruit, but then it's too sweet. So I'll pick out a little of the fruit and try to get rid of everything else. But I've lived in Oro Valley a little over 2 years. I'm on the Parks and Recreation Advisory Board along with Mike. I've been trying to follow some of the planning work as it's developed, and I also give a lot of kudos to you, Malini, and your crew for bringing this process to where it is and continuing to move it forward.
Thank you. And Phil?
Hello?
Yep, can hear you now.
Finally.
Which celebrity.
Okay.
But it was actually a celebrity, and I was like,
Hello?
Yep, we can hear you. Is
Okay.
everybody? Oh, yep.
This is Phil Zelensky. I'm a 17-year resident and been on the Planning and Zoning Commission for about 3 years, and I have 1 to 3 more years to go. So we'll see. I wanted to get involved, and it's been a good experience. It has gotten me involved more in the community than previously. I also, like someone else mentioned, would like to, mostly I'm interested in Vistoso Trails Nature Preserve and seeing where the town can go to handle all the different varied opinions that we have. And I want to know who picked these different options in the poll because they're all sweets. And so my other is either red wine or lamb chops. So I don't know which is acceptable, but I'm not supposed to do a lot of carbs. So we'll see how this goes. All right.
Thanks, Phil. And guilty. I chose the options, but I figured food brings everybody together, right? So, anybody else who hasn't had a chance to introduce themselves? Joe, perfect timing.
I'm Joe Brandyber. I'm a resident of Oro Valley for about 11 years. I've been on a couple of the committees, finance, expansion. I forget the others. I'm a member of the Board of Adjustments. And I'm here basically to listen and see which way we're going and if it makes sense. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Joe. Okay, anyone else who hasn't had a chance yet that would like to introduce themselves? I'm not seeing any hands up. I am also joined tonight by Renee Overa. So Renee, if you'd like to introduce yourself.
Yeah, of course. Hello, everybody. My name's Renee Olvera. I'm a senior planner here with the town of Oro Valley, working on OV's path forward. So excited to see all of your faces tonight and excited for the wonderful conversation we're going to be having.
Great. Thank you. So before we get into the discussion tonight, I do have a brief presentation. So give me one moment to bring up some slides. All right, so the purpose of tonight and next week's meeting is to check in with the group to see if the plan accurately reflects the collective resident voices heard over the past 2 years or if revisions are needed. The process to create this 10-year action plan started back in 2023 with the first phase that was called Let's Talk. And during this listening phase, residents provided over 9,000 comments that helped determine their values, priorities, and expectations for Oro Valley's future. Then, as many of you were involved, starting at the beginning of this year, was the resident working group meetings where there were 4 different groups working to transform the guidance heard in 2023 into draft goals, policies, and actions. This is what created the 30% draft of the plan that was reviewed by those resident working group members, as well as boards, commission, the town council, and stakeholder groups in May. Now, last time that many of us got together was in August to prepare for the release and promotion of the first complete draft of the plan to the community. All residents were encouraged to read and comment on the draft plan through the big community review. So now we're at a point in the process where we aren't looking to make any big U-turns, but refinements as needed. So through the big community review, residents identified a handful of topics that needed further discussion. Our goal tonight is to get through the first 3 topics this evening, which includes the language related to a performing arts center, community gathering space, and the policy and actions related to views. Now, next week, we'll focus on language related to housing and any other topics that you feel the group should discuss to achieve better alignment with resident guidance. I'm going to quickly give some brief background about each topic we're going to discuss tonight before turning the evening over to all of you. And as established in previous meetings, my commitment to you is always to end the meeting on time at 7:30. So our aim at these meetings is to achieve consensus on a revised 90% draft of the plan. This is also referred to as the resident recommended draft. I want to take a moment to talk about the word consensus. So for those of you that participated in previous meetings, you may recall the list on the screen. You guys developed this list during the first meeting to help define the word consensus. Now, typically when we get to this part of a 10-year plan process, we do start discussing more minute details that folks generally have strong feelings about, and that's okay. But I do want to encourage everyone to remember that our goal here is to find compromise and balance. I want to congratulate all of you who participated in previous meetings because you were able to achieve this. This is super important to keep the plan and the discussions moving forward, so let's try to keep that momentum going this evening. Before I move on, does anyone have any questions about achieving consensus? Okay, I'm not seeing any hands raised. So additionally, your number 1 charge as a resident working group is to create a plan that honors the collective voices heard over the past 2 years. So resident voices have crafted the draft into what it is today, and this started with creating an award-winning community engagement plan, as well as a brand and name, and then also crafting the vision, guiding principles, goals, policies, and actions. To date, the town has received 10,500, a little bit more than that, comments to help shape the plan. Yet participating residents have been able to achieve consensus at each stage of this process. So this might sound a little silly, but go back to our poll question to try to give an example of how they were able to do this. So let's say if you chose pie and you decided to have a potluck, but you're only allowing people to bring pie. Some of you who like cookies or candy may have shown up unhappy. But if you chose pie and hosted a potluck and let people bring whatever they want, even if you had pies and cookies and candies, you may get more favorable results. So that's really what the same intent there for the 10-year plan process and what it needs to achieve. A little bit of something for everyone, right? And again, I want to commend those of you who participated in the meetings last spring for sticking to this task because overall, the big community review confirmed that the plan's on the right track and accurately reflects most residents' values, priorities, and expectations for the future. So the big community review was the first check-in with the broader community to see if the plan is getting it right. It was promoted through roadway signs, postcards, flyers, as well as events. And staff also had preliminary discussions with external agencies like surrounding jurisdictions, including Pima County and the town of Marana, the State Land Department, and amphitheater schools. And these discussions were aimed to provide some context and background in preparation for the 60-day review that the town will conduct next spring with these agencies as required by state law. And because the 10-year plan is comprehensive, we also met with other town departments like police, public works, park and recreation to make sure that they were aware of the changes being made and the comments that have been received to date. And as I stated previously, overall, the big community review confirmed that the plan is heading in the right direction as most of the comments were already addressed in the plan. Now, there were some minor changes to fill in gaps or fix wording as well as organization, and then a handful that needed this check-in as well as next week's meeting. So first, I just want to make everyone aware of what I mean when I say minor changes. These were largely wordsmithing or minor additions. For instance, planning for cooling centers if there's an emergency, having information about pesticides and gasoline-powered leaf blowers, for instance, when working with HOAs, and also looking at ADA compliance for the all-town facilities. Many of these additions were within existing goals, policies, or actions and really helped clarify and add some specificity as needed. Additionally, some actions were moved to different sections of the plan based on the feedback that we received. So the main example of this is related to Vistoso Trails Nature Preserve. The actions related to that effort have been moved under Goal I, Trails and Paths. This goal was also expanded for alignment with OV Trails Connect, which is another effort going on right now to create a master plan for Oro Valley's dirt trails and unpaved paths. And then also some of the anticipated timeframes for completing actions were updated to improve accuracy, and 7 new actions that aligned with the collective resident feedback were crafted under the goals listed on the screen. Now, if anyone has any additional micro edits, please reach out to staff. We're always available to meet or answer emails or talk on the phone. And we really do appreciate all of your proofing skills, but we won't get into micro edits or wordsmithing during these meetings. Now, our first of 3 discussion items for tonight is about the action related to a performing arts center. So in 2024, the town conducted a statistically projectable survey. This means there is confidence that the survey represents the community. The survey responses are highlighted in yellow on the screen and were the basis for the resident working groups that met last spring to transform into goals, policies, and actions. Now, what we heard through the survey and the working group meetings is residents like the idea of having a performing arts center. They even took it a step further to include humanities, history, and culture. But there was a fair amount of discussion about the town paying for it or being the lead. As many of you may be aware, there is hyper focus on the town's finances happening with the pending taxes and fee increases. The community is justifiably concerned about the town funding core services like roads, water, and safety. And part of that concern is adding any new big ticket items for the town to fund. So during the 30% review, this action was clarified to reflect those concerns heard during the resident working group meetings and through the review process. And now with the 60% review or the big community review, there were comments kind of on both sides of the spectrum related to the wording highlighted in orange, which is the focus of our conversation tonight. Similarly, when it comes to community gathering spaces, over half of residents want spaces where there's places to shop, dine, bring friends and family with things to do and entertain. Last spring, folks identified the Oro Valley Marketplace as a focal point that could be linked to other nearby areas like Steam Pump Ranch. essentially really creating a corridor of community spaces. Again, folks are justifiably concerned about funding big ticket items, especially those that are beyond the town's core services. So the wording in orange was added through the 30% review. And now at the 60% draft, residents still showed support for having a walkable gathering space, but there also were comments that were concerned with the plan being so specific about who will fund it. And then our last item for discussion tonight is about views. I will say this was probably the most challenging topic for the resident working groups to navigate. As shown in the surveys, protecting views is a high priority, and the community is concerned about building heights, specifically as it relates to apartments. However, residents also determined that there are areas and uses that may warrant taller buildings. For instance, the hospital was brought up a lot as one that folks agreed made sense, and it is one of the tallest buildings in Oro Valley. The policy shown on the right-hand side of the screen aimed to capture the nuances that the resident working group discussed while also honoring what the community said about apartments without outright saying no to apartments. Again, the plan needs to achieve balance and compromise between varying points of views. And during the 60% review, there were comments to limit all buildings to 3 stories and concerns about those first 2 policies, EE1 and EE2. I do want to mention that these policies not only aim to reflect the collective community's views, but also the market in Oro Valley. So when you think about apartment communities in Oro Valley, most of them are 2 to 3 stories. The developers for the Oro Valley Marketplace did propose taller apartments, but that was a novel exception. Typically in Oro Valley and suburban markets, developers only want to go 2 to 3 stories because anything over 3 stories does start to cost more money. And it's usually the amount of 2 versus 3 stories that they're focused on. But again, our aim tonight is to check in with the group on these 3 items to see if the plan accurately reflects the substantial resident voices heard over the past 2 years or if they need to be revised. And then similar to defining consensus, the group also developed the ground rules shown on the screen at their very first meeting. Please keep in mind we are aiming to achieve balance and compromise that moves the plan forward and accurately reflects the collective resident voices. So I do need everyone's help to ensure that we have a meaningful and productive discussion this evening. And for those of you who joined us last spring, you probably remember our virtual whiteboard. We will be using it again this evening. If you're new to the virtual whiteboard, just want to give you some tips. You can navigate it on your own from your device using the menu in the lower right-hand corner. You're able to zoom around it, zoom in or out. You will not need to type or post anything on the whiteboard as staff will be doing that, but this will help you be able to see the comments that we're writing for everyone. All right, so with that, I'm going to launch our whiteboard. All right, so you should all be seeing the whiteboard now. You may have to, at the very top, click rejoin if at any point you're only seeing a blank screen. Also, if you're on an iPad or similar device, you may have to scroll right or left to see the whiteboard versus seeing everyone's faces. So again, here are our 3 items tonight: Performing Arts Center, Community Gathering Space, and Views. We do have the slides on here as well in case you need those for reference. We are going to start on the left-hand side with the Performing Arts Center. So again, our goal is to reach consensus on whether the language is accurate and representative of the resident voices or if it needs revisions. I do ask to please raise your virtual hand again if you have a comment or question, and I'll take them in the order as we go through, and hopefully at the end of discussion we can achieve some consensus. So if you have any questions or comments about performing arts, please feel free to raise your virtual hand. And you may also use the chat if you're more comfortable with that. And the big community review report is also linked in the chat in case anybody needs to reference that. Okay, we'll go with Mike.
I guess the question is in the language here, it says completely financially independent. Is there possibly room for, the town to subsidize private development in a way that, allows us to move forward more easily, but not, pinning us down to what would you call a major financial commitment?
Okay. And then I think Phil, you're next.
Yes, if I get off course here, let me know. I think this is a very ambitious idea to have a performing arts center, especially for a town of our size, that really doesn't have a center focal point. In other words, there's no downtown area, no gathering area, and I think it's just very ambitious. And yet, if the majority wants to go that direction to consider it, I'm fine with that. However, refresh my memory. It's a question I probably should have asked 2 years ago. It was a great emphasis placed on how well the town did and the people did on taking most of the 2016 plan and implementing most of the goals and objectives. Does the town council get to review this in detail and comment on what's possible and what isn't before we say to them, here it is, go do it? I guess I need a little clarification on that before I proceed.
Sure. So that's a great question. So yes, the 10-year plan does go through the Planning and Zoning Commission for recommendation and council approval before it's put on the ballot. So
Okay.
council approval basically signifies that, hey, this plan is good to be put on a ballot for voter approval.
All right. Did the last time I was here, but I wasn't a participant. The last time, did the town council make a lot of recommendations, or did they just accept it as it was?
So I will say with similar to this time, there were a handful of check-ins with council members. So we typically don't wait till the very final meeting to present
Okay.
it to council. So for even this one, for instance, the town council was presented the 60% draft in September. We'll be back with an update in January to them. So they're along the whole time to
Okay.
provide feedback.
And this is probably one of the meetings I missed about this particular performing arts venue. Are there any other towns in our area, like Vale or Marana or even the foothills, that have a performing arts center like this, or is that pretty much left to Tucson?
And I would welcome anybody else who probably has a lot more knowledge about this. I do believe in Saddlebrook there is, I'm just not sure the aspects of it.
Okay.
But okay.
Yeah, like I said, it may not be an appropriate question at this time since the majority has, or plurality has said that they want to go forward with this. I just think it's very, very ambitious considering the other challenges in front of us to get a cohesive community area.
Sure.
But,
no, thank you. And I do want to mention, yeah, at this point, we're not looking to, I would say, remove an action related to performing arts. It's more of the refinement. We're not wanting, at this point, it was supported through the survey and through the resident working group conversations in the spring. So now it's just kind of possibly refining it, but not taking a big U-turn and removing it at this point.
No, I understand. Thanks. Sorry for interrupting.
Yep,
okay.
Sharon, then Hal?
Okay. Well, first of all, I agree with the comments that this is an ambitious project for a town our size. But in a 10-year planning document, I'm uncomfortable with excluding it as, not even being a possibility for finance, because the reality is the greatest thing that's come along for local governments in many ways is public-private partnerships. And there might be opportunities in the future, in the next 10 years. So I'm very uncomfortable with having such strong language excluding this as something that we could strive for as a community, especially when it already has received such community support. So I do understand the concerns, especially of the council members who are thinking about budgetary restraints. But this is a 10-year document. This is a long future ahead of us. And I would like to see us at least just soften that language so that if the city has, or the town has, an opportunity to explore a public-private partnership where there might be some way of using planning or staff services or whatever as the city's portion of finance, or any combination thereof. It's something that I think we should be open to.
Okay. Thank you, Sharon. And Hal, before you go, Jeff, so I do see in the chat you asked where would the land come from? So part of, the action right now would be working with providing informational support to a nonprofit or other entity. So they would take the lead, but, helping through that is looking at suitable locations. So it's not determined as of now. Okay, sorry, Hal. Hal, then Tom.
Okay, so as I mentioned in the self-introductions, I'm a retired local government planner. I spent most of my career working in the suburbs of Portland, Oregon. I worked for the city of Beaverton, which is a community of about 100,000 people just west of Portland. And shortly after I started working there in the late 90s, they started getting into planning for a performing arts center or an arts center. I was there for about 9 years. Then I worked for the local Park and Rec District for another 6 years. And during that time, they continued to look into it. After we left the area in 2018, they actually were able to put something together. So it was almost a 20-year process. The impetus for actually getting something done was a donation from the sort of the matriarch of a local company based in Beaverton and Research Fine Foods. She donated $12 million to the effort, or maybe it was $13 million. And then they got almost 1,000 donations from other people, putting together another 12 million. So $25 million. The city of Beaverton established a lodging tax to help pay for the rest of the cost of construction and also to pay for part of the cost of operations. So it was a long-term process. It was led by the private sector, by nonprofits, including the local Arts Commission and Arts Foundation and so on. But the city did take a major role. And I think I agree with what was said before. The town has to be open to the possibility of doing that if the private sector can manage to take the lead and put something together. So those are my thoughts. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you. And then Tom?
I want to ditto everything that Sharon said. Actually, she said it very eloquently, and I agree 100% with all of her comments. I hate the harshness of the language that is right now saying, completely out of the question to consider any finance involvement in a performing arts center. 10 years is a long time. And as Hal already pointed out, there's a lot of different ways to skin the cat, and I just don't want to close the door on it.
Okay, thank you, Tom. And then Kristen, and then Bill.
Hey Hi, everyone. I am Kristen Sharp, and I'm the president and CEO of the Oro Valley Chamber of Commerce. I agree again with Sharon with Hal. And I just want to draw everyone's attention to the current text where it says provide informational support to a nonprofit or other entity interested in establishing yada, yada, yada. So it doesn't say that the town is going to put in a performing arts center and that, you know, they should be using their funds for it. It just says to support and provide information. I agree that 10 years is a long time, and to put limiting language on something like that that says they will be completely financially independent in the town is short-sighted and could hurt us. Recently, a house was gifted to the town of Oro Valley in so that those funds of the sale could be used to Vistoso Nature Preserve. Like, what if something like that happens? What if somebody gifts a house and saying, okay, well, the funds are used to support a performing arts center? We don't know what's going to happen. So again, I am also in favor of taking out that limiting language. And I think the rest of the language that's there is currently fine. It's broad. It just says that the town is going to provide information and support it. So thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Bill, and then Andy.
Thank you, Melanie. I'm on the board of the Oro Valley Performing Arts Center Foundation. We have a full 501c3 set up. We have the money to do a major $50,000 donation to do a major feasibility study for this project. It will be due sometime in the middle of January. We will get the report. They've already been in town and interviewed a number of people, key people, and all over the region, not just in Oro Valley. I heard somebody say earlier it's a very tough challenge to do it for a town our size, but this isn't just about us. We'd like it to be here, but it will serve not just even the region, but all the way up to Phoenix or even farther because we're looking at national acts, etc. But we don't know how it can be done yet. We have ideas. We've hired the CSL group who have done many of these to get us a feasibility study. We ask very carefully, please be objective. Don't assume because we would like to get it done that in fact you need to slant your report that direction. We absolutely need to know in current context whether or not this is doable, and if so, then how, etc. I want to echo what a number of you have said. I think I attended all the various work groups, and I never heard anything like that orange language there. I heard the top part of it and thought that was exactly right. To Kristen's point, we never have asked the town for any funding of any kind, nor does that statement above say that we're asking for it or that the town would provide. By putting this in there, number one, it sort of negates the first part. And secondly, if in fact the town did somewhere down the line, as someone said earlier in that 10-year period, that they did want to be involved, they own the ranch, the Rooney Ranch property, by the way, if they decided that was a good use for it, we'd have to have a general plan amendment with all of the stuff that goes on into getting that done. It's not necessary, and it negates the idea of the support for it. It's saying, okay, you guys want to do it, never mind. You know, that's not where we need to be. This is a major tourist attraction that will bring in revenue instead of the tax increases that nickel and dime. This, in fact, when we get it done, will bring people in from all over the country to pay for bed tax and pay for sales tax, etc. So I hope we can get that out of there. Obviously, we'll live with it and we'll continue to do it because we're not asking the town for money, as I said before. So I really would appreciate the consideration that others have mentioned as well, that this center won't, that orange group sentence won't come out. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Bill. Andy, and then Joe.
Okay. Um, I'm thinking that maybe instead of saying that the center would be completely financially independent or just removing that, maybe language, maybe it would be good to have language that is kind of in between those. That's something like the center would not be completely funded by the city, or it would there would be no guarantee of major funding from the city, something like that. That kind of middle ground. But in, to me, we're not that far from Tucson, and to me, it makes more sense to take advantage of the fact that we're near Tucson. People, this is a nice place where you can go into Tucson and see a national kind of um, talent or something. And it makes more sense to me to emphasize use of existing facilities like high school performance spaces. Maybe there's others, and just really trying to maximize that for kind of community-based performances. But it seems a little odd to me to for Oro Valley to try to compete with Tucson for um, national type events. That's what I can offer. Thank
Great.
you.
Thank you, Andy. Joe and then Roberta.
Okay, while I agree conceptually, a performing arts center would be a nice thing to have for the town. But I also recognize that we could debate that until tomorrow morning. But I think it's important that in the plan, it makes it crystal clear, there's a bright line, that there would be no federal funds involved in the acquisition, planning, development, the running of the Performing Arts Center. I think what you see going on in Washington uh, is potentially a predictor of whatever administration is in there would want to dictate the type of activities that could be involved. And I don't think that is something that we would want. I think we would want a free expression of differing opinions. Thank you.
Sure. Thanks, Joe. And so, yeah, and just to clarify, the plan is really the charge for the town. So, especially if this is led by a private nonprofit, we wouldn't be able to stipulate who they get funding for. But so the funding would really be if the town is funding anything.
Well, again, to be repetitious, there should be a bright line that there's no federal government funds involved.
Okay. Roberta, and then we're gonna.
Yeah, I'm also going to echo the people who are talking about. I mean, whoever came up with this financially independent thing, it just reeks of knee-jerk, wimpy, neon sign trying to appease people who might be freaked out about finances right now. I frankly, as a town member, find it insulting whether or not somebody is for a performing arts center or not. It's just, it goes so much the other way. It's such an overcorrection. I just find it amazing. So yeah, definitely soften it because you never know, never say never. I I'm not sure yet if we should have one or not. I love the arts. I do think if we did have one, that it should be something that's run by the town. But then again, I'm also a big, I've been pushing a lot for the overlook to be utilized. And I'm thinking, well, wait a minute, the town can't even run the overlook. I mean, they gave it to Troon to run, and that thing's being run into the ground. I don't mean run into the ground. What I mean is it's not been utilized for the community. So I'm thinking to myself, I'm sort of thinking on the fly here when I read this one, okay, can the community run an art center? But yeah, just to have it like black and white like that and just to close the door is ridiculous. My other question is, are we just discussing yes or no on an art center or how we word it, or are we also discussing any options like utilizing, as somebody mentioned, some of the local high schools or temporarily, or even like, an empty storefront or the overlook, or working in conjunction with the Gaslight to put on some shows sort of as a test over the years, just, with tickets to see if people would go to them.
Yeah, so at this point in the process, we are no longer discussing if the performing arts action should be in the plan or not. So
Okay.
that guidance has been given. What we're really focusing on now is the language. And I will say you bring up a lot of good points, Roberta, and there are other actions. Specifically, there was one added after the 60% review about the Overlook restaurant, because I think that got brought up during the resident working groups, but also with the review comments. There's also other actions about utilizing space for, indoor programs. We could add events there too at schools and everything else. But for the purpose of this conversation, we're not determining if this action should be in the plan or not. We're just looking at specifically the language in the action.
Okay, thank you very
Yeah,
much. I appreciate the clarification. And yeah, count me in as somebody who wants to way, way, way soften that language or open it to a public-private partnership. Thank you so much.
great. Thank you. Okay, we're going to go Sue, and then I see some hand raised for people who haven't had a chance to speak yet. So I'm going to go to you folks first, and then we'll go back to those who have already spoken. But Sue and then Sasha.
Okay, I I'm concerned that we have finances that can keep up our parks and our roads. I just don't want us to go off on a bent this way. I mean, if we really want to see the arts, high level arts, we can go to Tucson. I just think we have to be careful. We're 50,000, we're not 100,000 even. And I think we do have to be careful of where we spend our money. Thank you.
Yep. And then Sasha.
Hi, everybody. I'm just joining in. My name's Sasha Case, and I'm currently on this new Tucson Tourism Advisory Commission. And we have been going over a whole big 153-page document from a consultant group about how we can improve and increase revenues to our town so that, as others mentioned, we don't raise taxes. And we feel that the best way to get people to spend money is to get them in and then have them go home instead of building more apartments or more homes here. So there is this drive to look at ways that we can bring more revenue to the town. And while I'm also part of the Oro Valley Theater Company, and yes, we do performances here, and we do lease the Gaslight Music Hall for those spaces, and there are many performances going on in the high school, but this is a bigger idea. And big ideas are sometimes scary and they're sometimes thrilling, and this is all of that. And as to the gentleman who wants to, make sure federal funds aren't involved because administrations take over, the good news about our country still is that administrations change. And so by removing this orange sentence, we are allowing for a different administration to possibly look at things in a different way. Not to say we're building this or we're not building this. That's not the question, as Mulaney said. But by removing this, we're allowing some openness in this process that this is squelching. So I'm hoping that the sentence just can be removed personally. Thank you.
And then Rosa.
Yeah, so I think that the language can be softened, but I think you need to respect the fact that someone asked for it to be put in there. I do think 10 years is a long time and a short time. We're coming up on almost 10 years of dealing with the Vistoso ridiculous saga, and we're nowhere, zero, zippo. So I think that, and it's a similar challenge. It's people here want something done, and money and finances are are difficult to come by. So I think that we need to respect all views. And I would not want to see the language removed because someone with experience on how things can go off in the town probably asked for that language to go in there so that we don't lose our focus. I think someone had just mentioned about we already have a full load of things to take care of. I support the idea of having cultural centers, humanities centers, art centers. I think it's an excellent idea. But I think it needs to get a little further along. And it may be that that first 10 years only, as I think Hal brought up, fleshes out the donors. You know, I mean, people need to get their ideas in order. And as for the person who donated the house to Vistoso Trails Nature Preserve, you could donate 200 of them and still not finish the project here. It's the donations are you need to have like a large donor, like that one that Hal talked about. Like you need somebody to set the tone and then you can get a bunch of smaller donations. So it can be done. So I would just want to see that the language that we use respects both the people worried about stretching ourselves too thin and also respects the fact that it's a good idea. Because if it can be pulled off, it can really make Oro Valley a destination, which it needs to be if it's ever going to have like good financial independence, because we're only, you know, we're less than 50,000 people, and we can shop all we want, but we're not going to shop our way out of a financial stable future. So I do think it's a great idea, but I think that this for the sake of the plan and for people who are going to read it, I think we need to somehow figure out how to get that language to respect that they are working independently. They have asked for nothing, but we do want like the town to be the town where this resides. And obviously you want some town cooperation. So maybe that's a good word to use. And you want town, support and acceptance and all that kind of stuff. But like I said, I would want to respect both sides of this opinion. And like I said, if it's going to happen, it's going to happen because there is good donation support. And it does take one really good donor to get it going. And then, people will join in because they see that it's a possibility. So that's my comment. I would want to make the language respect both perspectives.
Okay. And Bill, I know you've been waiting patiently. So Bill, and then Cheryl, and then Richard.
Yeah, yeah. I don't want to beat a dead horse here, or a live horse for that matter. However, when we started talking about this, there was conversation that why aren't we just using Steam Pump Ranch or the high schools or the parks, etc. And our response was, as we looked at it, was that if we did a cultural arts festival, we would use all those and have performances at all of them. But this is bigger than what we're talking about. Any steam pump could do, or Creek Park, or any of them. Because in fact, we're looking at potential outdoor amphitheater as well as an indoor 400-seat stage. And this is in fact something, when Judy and I were looking at where we're going to move 21 years ago, one of the things that drew us to Oro Valley was its reputation for culture and arts. It had the Oro Valley Arts Council at that time. And and then this is right down that line. We are saying, let's earn that reputation for dedication to the arts. But again, we're not asking the town to spend a dime or a penny or a dollar. I mean, the fact is, what we're saying is, yes, we'd love support from staff to give us information if they have. And we aren't just diving in. We, in fact, are spending money to do a feasibility study to see if it works at all, and if so, how and where, and how can we raise the money, etc. But again, to put this, I don't know, this orange language was never mentioned in any of the work study groups that I was part of. And I don't know where it came from. It was a very big surprise when we saw it. And that why would we want to limit it? If the town decides somewhere down the line that it is a big value, as we think it will be for the revenue that we need for this town, so that it isn't a property tax perhaps, or isn't another tax increase of some kind, that the town may very well want to be involved. But to go through a general plan process amendment is just not necessary. So please consider taking that out and leaving the first part of it in, which does in fact say what the town will do. Thank you.
How much longer are you gonna
Yeah, I'm
take?
gonna be a while.
Huh?
Yes, I'm gonna be a while.
Thanks, Bill. All right. And I do want to clarify, I know Performing Arts Center was talked about with the Economy Resident Working Group, with the Community Resident Working Group, as well as the Development Resident Working Group. And I do think, especially in the Development Resident Working Group, and those of you who participated in that one, that's where I think I heard the most conversation about the concerns about paying for the town paying for it. So, and then through the 30% review, we also got comments. So I do want to just clarify that the language didn't come out of nowhere. It is reflective of some of the things we heard. But what I'm hearing tonight, though, is that it definitely needs to be softened. It was an overcorrection. I think somebody used that, Roberta used that term, and I think that was made is a good description of it. Overcorrection in one direction. But Cheryl, we'll go to you, and then Richard, and then Tony.
Okay, I'll start by saying I don't have a problem with it being softened a bit, but I do have a concern because of the financial situation with the town. The people that I've been speaking with on a personal level are not happy with hearing about the taxes. And this is essentially going to be looked upon should we end up giving money as almost like another tax. Why are we spending money on this after we have so many other financial issues here within the next 5 years? I am a supporter of the arts. I go to Gaslight Theater. I go to the operas that are held at they're streamed in from the New York Met that are held often over at Oro Valley Marketplace, but sometimes I have to go down to Foothills to see those. Same thing, just went on Sunday to see a Broadway show that had been videoed or streamed, not live streamed, but it was recorded into a movie. And it was very popular 4 years ago. So I went to see that on Sunday. There was a total of 6 people in the theater. So I'm not so sure that we're going to have the level of attendance at these events that would be able to support this thing. And that's my only concern. I mean, I've been to museums as far as that goes all through Paris. So it's not like I wouldn't support having one. It's just that I am concerned with the financial aspect. I'd also like to say, and I think I did mention this when we were in the development group talking about this issue. The town has always said they would, back in 2005, when they were working on that general plan, town has always said that they wanted some sort of additional restaurants and other retail to come here. And we have made some improvements on that, but never a performing arts center. And actually, entertainment center, performing arts, whatever you want to call it, was actually put in 2 plans that I'm aware of for the parks, Naranja being the last one. And they ended up taking it out. The town ended up removing it from the plan because the cost of it was just prohibitive. I think even in 10 years ago now, that was somewhere along the lines of, $15 million. So there's that from the financial aspect, and the fact that I think that this question itself should not have been worded the way it was. We were talking about 2 separate issues here. Shopping, dining being one, they are naturally often together, but a performing arts center doesn't have to be in that particular location for it to be successful. I bet a lot of people thought, oh, I'd really like the shopping and dining. I've been talking about that for 20 years now. And just, they just said yes to it simply because of those factors. I also did a little bit of research on some of the other places
in Arizona that happen to have performing arts centers. Prescott actually seems to be one of the most successful, which seemed a little odd to me. It's a small town too, like Oro Valley. Our populations are fairly close. But from a historic aspect, they have it in an old movie theater, an old Elks Theater building, and they have the 2 upper floors that they lease out for wedding venues and things like that. So that seems to be the way that they are able to make money. Green Valley, unfortunately, had a number of years where they were underwater, and their last 990 showed that they only had a total of contributions toward it of $201,000. So it doesn't seem like there's a lot of support in smaller towns financially. Now, whether they would come to the various performances, that I don't know. I'm not seeing it. Yeah, and what I do see when I go to like the opera, as a matter of fact, which is rather nice. There's one coming up on Saturday over here at is it Marketplace? I don't know. One of the 2 that I mentioned. And I mean, seeing it live streamed from the Met is just incredible. So I don't know. I don't know whether we're going to have that level of support. I do also have a concern with the fact that should we get all of these other performances in here, what we're going to do is draw away from the Gaslight Theater. And it doesn't seem quite right for me to continue to bring in new businesses that put other businesses underwater. So, as I said at the beginning, I'm okay with softening it a bit, but I think I have a lot of concerns with it overall. Thank you.
Thank you, Cheryl. We're going to go Richard, Tony, then Kristen, and then Tom. And then I'd like to move on to the next topic, if everybody is okay with that, if we can draw some conclusions from this one. But Richard?
All right. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
All right. I successfully unmuted. I kind of listening to the conversation, I think it's been great. I mean, a lot of different viewpoints, a lot of thoughts. But I'm thinking about the purpose of the general plan. It is not a prescriptive document. There are very few places in this plan that say that something should or shouldn't be funded by the town, or how much the town should or shouldn't put in. In fact, it's kind of only most of the funding discussion seems to be somewhere around the arts, like number 66, fund and perform regular maintenance. Well, if we're going to do the regular maintenance, we should be funding it. My point is that whether or not we have a center is something we're visioning in the document. But whether or not it happens is the implementation that takes place. And it's the function of the council to decide at that point in time when that comes up, whether it can participate, should participate, how it should participate. And I don't know if we should have something in the document that handcuffs the council and says, but we will never put any money into this thing. We will never, I just don't know. It doesn't feel, as a council member, I'd sit back and I'd say, well, that was 8 years ago and, things have changed. We can do it now. So I think we're being way too prescriptive. And I think we need to give the council a leeway. We say in 64, provide informational support to a nonprofit or other entities. And why do we have the Senate will be completely financially independent? Why do we say that? I mean, maybe we want that, but it's going to be up to a council to make that decision. And it will be up to the people who live in this town to say, yes, that was a good or not a good idea at that time. So I'm kind of in favor of really softening it. And I would probably take it out, but I guess there are people want it in, but I don't think a council should be bound like this to make that happen, because the future is going to change, and 10 years from now it could be a lot different than now.
Thank you, Richard. And then Tony, then Kristen. Oh, and Tony, you're muted.
Okay, I think we have spent too much time talking about this, and we're putting the horse before the cart. And I'm in favor of eliminating that whole orange sentence. That's what I have to say about it.
Great. Thank you, Tony. And Kristen, you'll be our last comment on this discussion item.
Great. So I just want to say the purpose of our discussion here, we are not deciding if the town of Oro Valley should fund a performing arts center. We are not deciding if we think a performing arts center is feasible. We're not deciding if we think people should attend.
We're not deciding if we think it should be successful or if it's something that's good for Oro Valley. We literally are deciding if we think we should handcuff future town councils by not letting them make a decision based on current circumstances. So I think we really just need to reread the text. It's provide informational support. That's it. So that's what we're deciding on right now if we should leave in that orange text that handcuffs councils or if we should take it out. To Richard's point, I think that it's just way too restrictive.
Great. Thank you, Kristen. So just to summarize, and you'll see even on the board, what I heard from a lot of folks was it needs refinement. Definitely softening, possibly removing. So this was a really helpful discussion. I want to mimic what Richard said. I really appreciate all of you guys' different views, and especially those of you who are in previous conversations. So this gives staff enough guidance. We'll work on it, and in our next meeting, we'll follow up with you all of maybe some revised language or just moving it forward. So I want to move us on now to the community gathering space. This is a very similar discussion, if you will. So similarly, the plan, it was very similar in terms of funding a community gathering space. And the language in the current draft, it's highlighted in orange. It's encouraging the marketplace, which those of you who are in the previous resident working groups identified as that's the best location for a community gathering space due to its size and already some of the revitalization that's happening out there. But it's encouraging the property owners to fund and create. And the concern was with the word to fund. And so if you're not seeing me move over on the screen, you may have to click on rejoin at the top, or you may also have to navigate yourself. Is everybody seeing on the community gathering space? Seeing
Yep.
Yeses and nos?
Got it.
Okay. So on the community gathering space, again, we're in the minutia now, but it's a very similar discussion. Do you think this reflects some of the residents' guidance was given? And again, is a lot of justifiable concern about finances right now, or do you think it needs to be refined when it comes to a community gathering space? McKenna?
Hello. I sorry, I had people talking in the background. I think that as phenomenal as it sounds to have the marketplace fund this place, and I agree that I think the marketplace would be the perfect location for something like this because we don't necessarily have that like downtown center feel. And marketplace is currently where we have a lot of our festivals and programming, like we just had the holiday festival last weekend with the tree lighting. I think that's a location that completely makes sense. The issue that I felt with this language is that I don't know that it'll be effective. I think I know with the apartments and the hotel and all of that, as that was going into agreement, one of the things that was discussed was something like this, like a community center or something along those lines. I believe like a splash pad was included, and it was supposed to be, I think, from what I remember, part paid for by the developer and part paid for by the town, and the town backed out of funding for that space. And then the developer said, well, if you aren't helping, we can't afford to do it. So they backed out as well. So now there's none of that like is in plans or development. So I think to me it makes a little bit more sense to, I don't know, just adjust this a little bit. I don't foresee that the marketplace would pay for something like that. So I think by putting in the language like, oh, we want them to fund it, then I think that's being a little bit presumptuous from my point of view. Just as, yeah, I think that would be a little, but again, I agree that I think that this is a great idea and that having a community gathering space is a wise decision that would bring a lot of attraction to the town. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, McKenna. And then Rosa?
I agree with McKenna. And the main reason why is because I attended every single meeting on this from the very, very beginning. And I was really excited to hear that they were going to build this great, like, community hub and everything. And then the devil was in the details. So the way it went down, and I'm going to give everyone specifics and facts, is there was an executive session in July of 23 in which this was discussed with the property owners of Marketplace. And subsequent to that executive session, two articles were written in a local newspaper that gave facts that were not correct. And the facts were that all the town had to do is contribute 3 million and they refused, something to that effect. So in an unprecedented move, the Oro Valley Town Council had the council attorney make a statement on November 1st, 2023. And in that statement, he revealed the contents of the executive session because of the misrepresentation. And the way it went is that the property owner wanted to be limited and capped at $3 million. And it was estimated 9.5 million plus was what the property owner wanted the town to put into that hub, that community gathering place. And the issue was that that wasn't the full load because the property was at one time environmentally sensitive land. And because of the topography of the property, it was going to require incredible engineering to turn it into like a flat area, centrally located area. So the language that's in the current draft is a little concerning to me because we've already we've already had that like whole council thing with the marketplace owners. And I think that it, just like you don't want to hamstring a future council, you don't want to dictate to a future council when we've already been down this road. And so I think it's a sensitive financial issue. And it's not that the town wouldn't have like participated. I think it was just what they wanted was not to pay any and to cap their impact fees, their construction impact fees at 3 million. And the town, in order to give the rezone that allowed the apartments, had to weigh what we were going to get as citizens. And what we're going to get is construction impact fees that are going to go and help our financial situation. So the language that's there now, I think, does need to be addressed because it does say it's kind of giving the impression that we're encouraging in the next 10 years a re-engagement of the owners of that property. So that's my concern as well. So, and like I said, I looked up those facts because I think facts are important. It's not worth it to us to put $9.5 million into, a gathering place. That just isn't something that is on the list of priorities that the town has to deal with in the next 10 years. So those are my comments.
And sorry, Rosa, just to clarify, so I'm capturing your comment. So when you say you feel like the language needs to be addressed, but you're concerned about the town funding any of it.
Yeah. So
So
like where it says promoting, let's see, promoting and marketing the areas as a destination or district with Oro Valley Marketplace as the hub. Now, and that's in the idea of this community gathering space. So, I mean, yeah, we want to promote Marketplace. We want it to be successful and we do things there now. But the idea of this community gathering space has had lots of iterations. And I even heard the other night when in the council meeting discussing the art for the car wash, I heard that someone from the Southern Arizona Arts Council, whatever they call themselves now, they keep changing their name, state that the property owner wanted to build a stage there. And that would be great if they built it, but that was the first time I'd heard about that. But like I said, the language here says that we're going to like go back over this, like as, and you know, people are correct in assuming that this is a great central location, and we do a lot of things there. I was just at the festival this weekend, and I do appreciate that that is a great like location. But I think that it's how we promote it. Like, how are we going to do that? We do that through our elected officials, and I don't think that that you know we've just recently gone through this, and the amount of financial support required by the town to make it happen was exponentially more than what the developer was willing to do. And I will add one more thing. The reason that they have to do something like this or provide amenities is because they are, in my understanding is that they reduce the amount of recreational space on their apartment property, correct? And they're kind of moving it or having some type of an arrangement where they're using this land in the center to kind of satisfy some of that open space, amenity, you know, space. So yeah.
Yeah, so as part of the development with the apartments, they have to have rec space, but
Right.
they could put it in the center. So they didn't reduce it, but they did
They're
put some
moving
of
it.
it in that central
Right.
area.
And then moving it and asking the town to pay 3/4 of the cost is, I think, what the issue was. So that's the language that's there now. The promoting, I guess, is a bit concerning. Um, you know, I just don't want to make, I don't want this to sound like, or get people like excited about something that is, if you know the details, you say to yourself, well, no, I don't want all our money going to that, you know, like, because we have other needs. We just talked about a community arts center, you know. So I just think that the language is a little bit committed to it. And I think since we've already just, you know, the town did engage the process. And what came out of it was not, it's not only what came out, the way it came out, like trying to, you know, basically misrepresent the facts. So that I think left a bad taste in some people's mouths. So anyway, I think that we need to be clear about the expectation that we're going to have this because the property owner will do what they need to do to you know to make a profit. And I don't think that they are volunteering to spend a significant amount of money for a community gathering space.
Thank you, Rosa. And then Roberta.
Hold on a minute. Yeah, there we are. I'm unmuted. I the encouraging the Oro Valley Marketplace property owners to fund this. First of all, I guess there was some kind of decision or some other thing that I wasn't part of that decided that this Oracle corridor and the Oro Valley Marketplace would somehow be this, you know, this magical thing central to Oro Valley. Or I mean, I don't always see it as like a thrilling place for central gathering. It's also hard for me, even though I've seen drawings. And look, I know what a community gathering place is. I've lived everywhere from rural areas to, you know, major cities, but a couple of things. It's like, you know, to me, Oro Valley Marketplace looks like it's like if I did a jigsaw puzzle of some kind of huge shopping area and then took a whole bunch of chunks out. That's what Oro Valley Marketplace looks like to me because it's like, wait a minute, I'm getting from fork to fire, and then wait, how do I get to Walmart? How do I get to Stacks? And how do I mean, it's extremely confusing. And yes, I do go to the festivals and I'm so grateful that we have that, you know, wonderful area at the end. But, you know, when I look at the middle and I look how spread out that whole thing is, it just seems like, is this going to be like an intimate community gathering place? Because I don't know if Oro Valley Marketplace is it. And also, other than anything that might have been that, let's say, like, and I don't understand, I don't know the information about this. Absent anything that the people in the apartments had to pay for, or were supposed to pay for, or are going to pay for, I don't see that much of a benefit to these marketplace property owners and the property owners and stakeholders in these areas to put money in and to fund a community gathering space unless, oh, I don't know, maybe they're going to have a food truck there or make people buy food. There's some kind of disconnect here. Like, I don't grok the whole thing even though I know a lot of the parts of it. And so it's something I think I probably have to sit with more. And I've read a lot about it again. I've looked at drawings and stuff. I'm just not sure if that language, encouraging them to fund, that maybe there's a better way to put it. I mean, once again, this is not the overcorrection of the last time, but this is like people in the town who run the town going, wait, we're freaking out. People know about all those taxes now, and we're taking money from the community center fund, and oh God, wait, now we got to do this stuff. So now they're like backtracking on everything. I mean, why even have an Oro Valley? So this encouraging them to fund. Yeah, encouraging is a little light, but maybe putting in something about, once again, a public-private partnership or whatever. It just seems like with these two things we've been discussing so far, that there's too much backtracking about, wait, we're out of it. We're Oro Valley. We're out of it because we just raised some taxes and raised some fees. And I got to tell you, that smells like high heaven to me. Maybe because I'm from New Jersey, and even though I've lived most of my life here, it's like I can smell BS a mile away. I personally think, and my feedback would be, that needs to be lightened, and I think that needs to be something, the language needs to be changed in a way that these businesses know that Oro Valley would be willing to have some skin in the game somehow. I guess I'll put it like that, if that makes sense.
Yep. Thank you,
Thank
Roberta.
you.
We're gonna go Mike and then Sandy.
Yeah, well, I guess what the responses said is that we want a community gathering space. I don't think it was necessarily, locked and loaded to be in the marketplace. And if is what I'm hearing, and I don't know, how we can work around that, but if in fact that plan is almost dead on arrival because it's going to be too expensive, should we be at least mentioning the option of looking at other options, other locations? I know they may not be any cheaper, but why continue down the path of one that sounds like it's probably not going to be completely feasible if there may be some other option which could be cheaper, potentially using, steam pump or some other facility that wouldn't require, the businesses to kick in, so much money, or to require us to kick in so much money. So really looking to broaden it a little bit and not have this be totally focused on the marketplace, even though that may be, plan A, but maybe there should be a little bit of a plan B here too.
Thanks, Mike. And that stemmed from, we had a couple conversations with a couple different resident working groups in the spring, and both had just identified Marketplace as the hub. But to your point, they did also identify Steam Pump, the now town-owned Rooney Ranch parcel, kind of off of Oracle, for those of you who are not familiar, um, as being other potential locations, but the Marketplace is a hub. But uh, yeah, we can, sounding from some of the comments, maybe we need to look at some of that language a little bit so that there is more flexibility. Sandy, then Sharon.
Yes, um, I agree that other places could be looked at, and I think it's too directive to put in to encourage, only the Oro Valley Marketplace property owners to fund. The truth is, the developer is going to do what he or she has to do in order to get the project that they want. Um, one of the issues at the marketplace previously was that there's some topographical and some other issues where the the place where they didn't want to put other things and they could have it be a gathering place. And so and for many reasons it didn't work out. But I don't think we should be directing um, the council or staff to to really focus on the marketplace and not other places. It's in the best interest of the property owners to have a gathering place so that people will come. But there's a lot of issues with it. For instance, well, we need some restaurants there. Well, the restaurants don't want to come there because there's not enough people. So, we want to work with the property owners for their interest and for the town's interest, but I don't think we should be directive to say specifically, let's do the marketplace. Thanks.
Thank you. And again, I definitely think we can look at the language, but we also probably would want to keep some of these locations in there just to respect the previous conversations that were happening with the resident working groups as well. So we can look at the language so it's not so directive, but would want to probably keep Marketplace, Steam Pump, all those locations that the previous guidance from residents provided us. Sharon and then Tony.
So I think you're onto something with the idea that this language is just too directive, and that's what concerns me. And if the big picture is trying to master plan how to coordinate and bring all those spaces together, which are so different in so many ways, but also there's some value to try to coordinate all of them so that it gives opportunities for different experiences in different parts of this coordinated corridor of community spaces. The thing is with retail, and we all know this by seeing the marketplace struggle, retail isn't what it used to be. It isn't anything like it used to be when we started envisioning the marketplace. And it keeps changing. And ultimately, retail spaces have to be an experience, and not just a shopping experience, but a restaurant experience, an entertainment experience, an outdoor experience. These are all things that have come into the successful new shopping experiences around the country. And so I think the concept of a gathering space that coordinates this corridor of different community spaces is great. It's a perfect exercise for the planning department to try to figure out how to connect all of that. But to direct or encourage, which is a nice word, but basically in trying to entice the Oro Valley Marketplace to go in and pay for the experience is just too directive for a planning document. It doesn't make any sense to me.
Thank you, Sharon. Tony, then Andy.
I think this is one thing where I would start eliminating too. Maybe I don't see Catalina State Park and Rooney Ranch being part of it. Rooney Ranch is pretty well developed, and Catalina State Park is way off the main drag. So maybe we should narrow our focus to maybe just Oro Valley Marketplace or Oro Valley Marketplace and Steam Pump Village. I just don't know. But as far as that first sentence, what if we took out "to fund"? And then you encourage the Oro Valley Marketplace property owners to create. You're encouraging them to create without saying anything about money. If they want money, they'll come to us and ask for it.
Thank you.
That's it.
Yep. Thanks, Tony. And yeah, when it comes to all the locations listed in there, we could look at language so it's not so directive. But again, these have been this is the guidance we got through multiple resident working group meetings last spring. So I don't in efforts to not make any big U-turns, I don't think we'd want to start removing different locations at this point. Andy and then Rosa.
Yeah, based on a lot of the previous comments, I would suggest in the two bullets, in the two bullets, sub-bullets, I would suggest simply removing marketplace from those two sentences because you've already given a list of possible locations. And then the point seems like it's to encourage property owners to do this and that. So that's one thing. Another thing is I'm just wondering, I've been trying to visualize what is what is a community gathering space? What was that intended to describe? What's listed as shopping, dining, and performing visual arts center. So we have a number of malls here and there that have shopping and dining. It seems like it's the performing visual arts center. That's the only additional thing that's being used to define. Anyway, what I can visualize that's not just a mall, a nice mall. Well, maybe a mall that has some really amazing architectural features, but that sounds expensive. We talked about that. So the other thing that I can visualize is the town I used to live in, which is about 50,000. It had a very traditional downtown, small blocks. You know, you go down there and you park, and then you walk all over the downtown. And there, it made sense for the city to buy a building and subsidize it as a theater. They brought in lots of small acts and had community theater because it made sense because once people came there, they would go to restaurants right nearby. They do some shopping. You know, it was very dense and walkable. And what we have are, you know, huge boulevards separated by, say, 5 miles or several miles. I don't see how I don't see how you make that a community gathering space and unify it all. Maybe someone else can paint a clearer picture. But my specific suggestion was just removing reducing the overemphasis on Oro Valley Marketplace in this.
Great, thank you, Andy. And so just for time, I can clarify some of the conversations we had with the resident working group. So you're right, on the survey, we just heard that folks want a central gathering space and places to shop, dine, and entertain, kind of to hang out at. So things to do, things to take people. So with the resident working groups, we had a few of the groups kind of give some more of those details of, well, what does that look like? And that's where we heard it needs to be walkable, it needs to be connected to other places, there needs to be amenities, shade, outdoor seating, and then possibly connecting all those different areas through similar architecture, through signage. So like Tohono Chul, for instance, they have signs along the road. So you know that it's back there. Um, those are just examples. I'm not saying specifically that's what would happen here, but that's just an idea or something that came up last time. I'm going to go to Mary because we haven't heard from you, and then Rosa.
Sorry, I accidentally raised my hand.
Oh,
I don't have
thank
anything
you,
to
Mary.
say. Many apologies.
Yeah. And just to clarify our discussion right now, so I'm just going to move the board up. So this action is fairly large about working with the owners of all these different places to create that community corridor. And then there's all the sub bullets of trying, as Andy pointed out, trying to give a little bit more definition of what a community gathering space would look like or the experience would be. What we heard through the 60% review, all the comments were related specifically to the part about funding, about having the marketplace property owners to fund. So that's kind of the focus of the conversation. But of course, if you have other questions or comments about the other bullet points, please feel free to add those as well. And then Rosa and then Sue.
That's all I wanted to clarify is I think that that's strong to say to fund because you can't tell a property owner, like we already went through this. We already agreed to what they would fund, and that area is going to get like some low key recreational items, not anything great. But the funding part, I think, is the language that I think is that I would understand why people would be a little confused, if not, because we've already been through this. And those who don't follow things are like, well, when are we getting all the things that the marketplace promised? But you know what I mean? But we like, because in the beginning, there was a big like presentation and everything. And so it's already, that ship has sailed. So I just think the thing that concerns me the most, other than to fund, is that the only thing we focus on in the bullet points is the marketplace and not any of the other places. But I do remember the conversations we had about joining all the different places together with signage and stuff like that. I don't remember us saying, but marketplace should be the place, because I know I spoke at those meetings too, and I said the same thing then that I said now. That ship has sailed. The conversation occurred. The end result was that Oro Valley would pay 4 times more than the developer, and the answer was no. So that's it. So I don't know how you would even make this happen in a 10-year plan. It's in the plan, so who puts it on the agenda for the council, to direct staff to go talk to Oro Valley Marketplace owners again? And so that's why I think it's too prescriptive and too focused on Oro Valley Marketplace, and needs to be a little bit broader to look for community gathering place opportunities among the assets and resources we already have. So that, to fund is my big thing, though. I think that needs to come out. So that's my comment.
Thank you, Rosa, and definitely raise your hand if I'm summarizing this conversation incorrectly, but I'm hearing it's fine to have the marketplace in there, but there's just way too much emphasis on the marketplace. And I kind of heard
That's
that
right.
from
Yeah,
a
just
few of
broaden it out to, finding opportunities to make gathering spaces in all the ones that everyone talked about in all the meetings, because there are times when things happen at just Steam Putt Ranch, and then that becomes a gathering place. And Rooney Ranch, we do own some property there. They may develop something in that property, the town, meaning the town. So I think that it's just this idea that we talked about all these things, and then everybody said, well, it should be marketplace, when we've already had the conversation. I guess that's my concern, that you would be obligating a council to re-engage a conversation that's already happened. And it would be a great financial, we would be the ones funding it. Let me put it to you that way. If we were willing to fund it, they would let us have a community gathering area there. So but I just don't think in the current financial situation with the town that they would commit to something like that. That's why I think to fund definitely has to come out, and that we need to broaden it, that look for opportunities for community gathering spaces among, the areas we already have. And you've listed all of them there. So that's what I would do.
Thank you, Rosa. And I want to appreciate also those of you who are adding your comments to the chat, and ideas of how to broaden it as well. We will be um, downloading those as well, so we'll have record of those as well. Sue and then Richard.
Yeah, I just want to agree with everybody. I'm thinking that if you take out those bullets, take out the OV marketplace in both the bullets, and I think it will help the writing of it.
Okay.
So that's it.
Yep. Thank you. And then Richard.
All right. Yeah, I agree with everybody that's talking about the Oro Valley Marketplace being just too much of an emphasis. Again, I don't see the document as being should be this prescriptive and telling the next council, and this is how you do it, and these are the places you should go. I really think the document should be visionary. This is what we want, and in 7 to 10 years, figure out how to get it done. And I would simplify this entire section and say, look, work with owners of property, other property owners, look at other sections of the town. There may be other areas in a few years that are going to open up for us to be involved in. Maybe we're going to annex some other areas, I hope, and really build ourselves up. So again, I don't think the document should be this restrictive in telling the council, and this is how you should do it. I think it's up to the council to make it happen. We tell them what we want done, and then it's up to them to figure out how to do it.
Okay, thank you, Richard. And you're right, it's definitely a balance with the general plan, is being prescriptive enough that the intent's there, but broad enough that it can stay relevant for 10 years. So, yep, good point. And I see some comments about Rooney Ranch, and then Andy had a question about that same area. So the area, so for those of you who may not be familiar, if you know where like the Mod Pizza is and all those shops, the area just south of it, the town owns. And so that has actually recently, the town council had a study session about it. I want to say October or September. I will get the exact date for you all for those of you who are interested. And I do know council is providing some guidance. And so there will be some more meetings and discussions about what will happen with that town-owned property. But I don't think as of right now, we know exactly what it will be, for those asking. Okay, other comments about this? So is everybody in agreement that it needs to be refined to reduce the emphasis on marketplace? Okay, seeing heads shaking yes. So let me ask the group. We have one more area to go through. It is a big topic. It's views. We're at 7:15. Do you guys want to get into this conversation, or would you prefer we wait till next Tuesday? Because I also don't want to get started, get into it, and then have to stop right in the middle. And I commit to only keeping you guys till 7:30 and respecting your time. So any thoughts on this? Do you want to start the conversation? I see let's keep rolling. I see waiting. It's a big conversation. Waiting. Tony and Sue, thoughts? Oh, Tony, you're muted.
I think this is a good place to stop and pick up next time.
Yep. And Sue?
I think it's a great place to stop and take it up next Tuesday.
Yeah.
Okay. And it looks like that's what those in the chat are saying too. So we will wrap up our meeting for tonight. Just give me one moment. Oops. All right. So for our next meeting, it will be on Tuesday, same time, 5:30 to 7:30. We will continue this discussion. We'll start off with the views, and actually the views, a lot of the comments regarding some of the policies around views actually connect quite well to our conversation about housing. So as many of you may know, this is the first time that there's been so many housing goals, policies, and actions in a 10-year plan in Oro Valley. That's partly due because of the focus on it, and the community interest in housing, but also because we are legally required for the first time to have the housing element. So it's not surprising that this is still an area we need to check and maybe fine tune a little bit. So with that, I will be sending out probably tomorrow or Thursday an email that gives you the detailed agenda. Please take a look at that because that gives some of the background information about the topics we're going to discuss, and it also helps focus, especially if you're limited on time, to those pages in the big community review report so you have a chance to see the comments that the community provided about these areas. We'll also be talking about, related to housing, of the goal related to high quality design standards and how that may affect affordability in housing and if there's any refinements needed there. I also want to remind everyone, again, we're at that point where in these kind of minute details, trying to make final refinements before getting that resident recommended draft presented to the commission, council, and ultimately the voters. So if there are other areas as you're reading through this that you think the group needs to discuss, please, when you're RSVPing, add those in. If there's just other areas you have questions about, maybe you don't think it needs to be a group discussion, but you have questions for staff or you want to meet with us, we're always available. Just reach out. We'll set up a time and come in and discuss any of the items you have, especially if you have micro edits or more wordsmithing and proofing. You guys have done a phenomenal job of making us sound smarter and grammatically correct. So please keep sending those our way so we can make those edits. And with that, I want to thank you all for the good discussion tonight. Are there any questions? Sue? Oh, I think, okay. No questions from Sue. Well, thank you for the great discussion all. and we'll see you on Tuesday.